So here's the strength of my argument, and the reason that I always beat these types of people, these scientism goblins, and I think everybody in this audience already knows why. It's because, first of all, I went to college with these guys. I studied under these dudes. So my philosophy of science professor was one of these guys. He was like a hardcore, atheist scientism guy. He was actually a pretty good philosophy professor, though, to be fair. And that class was great because even though he was a rabid scientism proponent, he actually encouraged everybody to understand philosophy of science. And people like, I've never watched Professor Dave, but I'm assuming that he would not care about philosophy of science, because usually scientism, physics type people, Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? They don't care about philosophy, and they actually discourage people from looking into it or studying it precisely because philosophy asks the questions that are difficult for them. They don't know how to answer or how to grapple with those things, because philosophy is, as our friend who called in a minute ago pointed out, it's a more abstracted discipline historically, and it's more difficult for these guys to deal with. You would think that since they have an interest in mathematics, that they would be able to do more abstract thinking, but they can't. It's really weird. And so there's something that shuts off in a lot of these people's minds, I think, to where they're unable to conceptualize perhaps the domain of metaphysics or the domain of even epistemology. They're a little more able to find maybe ethics accessible, just like normies find ethics a little more accessible, because everybody, deals with right and wrong. That's not fair. You shouldn't have done that, right? Is ought type stuff. But when it gets into the domain of metaphysics, like the good, or how do we justify a knowledge claim, these people are absolutely out to lunch. They completely fail. And we saw this, for example, all the way back to my debate with JF. Remember the original second atheist debate that we had done? JF assumed that because he had a degree in neurosurgery, or I forget what his degree was, right? That he would be able to do everything. So they had this sort of like overestimation of competence in every field because they mastered one field. That's very common in academia. And so when JF actually came to a debate that was asking pretty basic philosophical questions, he completely flounders. He fails. And I would bet money that Professor Dave doesn't know basic fallacies, doesn't know basic epistemic argumentation and the principles of justification either. And I can say that because I've dealt with these types so many times and for so many years, all the way back to 1999, 2000 was when I first started dealing with these types of professors, that it's really the best route, because you can't escape logic in epistemic questions, reasoning. And it's funny because these people think that they have cornered the market on logic and reasoning. But when you start to ask one level up abstracted questions like, what is logic? What is reason? Where is it? How is it? These people are done. Let's see what he says in regard to an old interview that I did with Jim Bob.
Jay Dyer with cartoonist, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I think I've heard that name before, but I don't know who that is. All right, so we're gonna, let's watch this one. Damn
it. Yeah, Darwinism, he could have been right about, a beak getting bigger, but right. I've looked into more of that, and all that shit is going down.
It is.
Fast. Because they still haven't accounted for the fact that there's digital information embedded in us, and
No, it's not digital information. It's just a sequence of nucleobases. That's it.
How does Professor Dave know that the information encoded in us is just a sequence of whatever? How does he know that it's not actually meaningful information? So I think he doesn't understand that the sort of smug, snickering, dismissing actual meaningful information, or telos, purpose, even in I think Jim Bob was talking about DNA. That was an interview we did maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but I think Jim Bob's talking about DNA. But to snicker and sort of dismiss this with this just sort of, well, we all know that it's meaningless information.
Yeah, I love the like desperation with which these delusional assets are like, they're always going like, oh, Darwinism is going.
Yeah, but you just did that. Like, you just delusionally snickered and did the very same thing that you're saying that we do.
Down. Oh my gosh, it's crashing and burning. Evolutionary biology is imploding. It's in crisis.
We weren't even talking about Ev Bio. We were talking about the grand narrative of the origins of life. So I doubt he's going to be very charitable.
Science is in crisis. No, you're just morons. I'm sorry.
Well, that's interesting. So did he actually reply to anything other than just saying that DNA is meaningless? That's all he said, and called us morons. So this is the standard scientism, smug atheism that's out there. And you'll notice, look at his smug face. And he's like just trying to outsmug what he thinks we are, right? So all of their arguments are actually confidence games. And I say that because argumentation is about philosophy. It's not about peer-reviewed studies and who has more evidences. And I can pile up 55 peer-reviewed studies for my point. That's what normies think is intelligence. That's what dum-dums, that's what the ladies on whatever podcast like Not So Erudite think is smart, right? Piling up peer-reviewed papers that you get from ChatGPT, right?
Information, I forgot the quote, is something like information habitually is related to a conscious mind.
Exactly.
Like, there's no point in all of existence so far where information wasn't created by a mind.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for all of the times when, yes, it fucking was, because what you're referring to as information is just a sequence of bases. That's it. You have monomers that polymerize, and that's it. That's all there is to it.
So it just is what it is. That's not even a response. This is so low tier. I actually thought this guy might bring a little bit of response, a little bit of attempting to deal with what the actual argument is. What the argument is comes from information science, right? It's an argument that Dr. Jason Lisle talks about, with the fact that anytime there's information that is meaningful information, it comes from a mind, at least as far as we know. Now, that's in the domain of information science and computer science. And so Jim Bob is extrapolating from that, which is an argument that I made for a long time because it was in some of the Jason Lisle presuppositional argumentation books and lectures. Jim Bob is just kind of repeating what we talked about for a long time. And this guy is saying, no, it's just, it is what it is. Oh, really? So let's presup Dr. Dave here, because if information isn't meaningful, it's just what it is, then Dr. Dave's arguments aren't meaningful. And his words on his live stream are not meaningful and have no purpose or telos. So therefore, his whole response is meaningless.
Endless
on his own grounds.
Obsession with information and a code that comes from the mind of the blah, blah, blah. It's just a complete fucking non-starter. It's
okay, so no arguments, just saying that to believe that information is meaningful or comes from a mind is a fucking non-starter. That's all he said. Is this guy is like the pinnacle, 4 million subscribers of YouTube atheism these days.
Just a desperate mischaracterization of molecular biology, right?
Yeah, but the argument isn't about molecular biology. It's about information science. And he's extrapolating that to all of life. It's a universal metaphysical argument about telos and purpose and meaningful information. It's not Jim Bob primarily trying to argue about biology.
You don't know what molecular biology is.
You don't know what anything is. Well, you don't know.
Therefore, it is a code from a human mind, or...
Oh, Professor Dave, does the code come from the computer? Oh, is the code in the computer meaningful? Oh, or is it meaningless?
Like, an intelligent mind. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see how they fumble it.
So you notice how he's not responded with any argument. He's just said that we're retarded. And just smug snickering. I bet you Professor Dave wouldn't last 2 minutes in a debate.
So it's just something that and someone will be like, a Darwinist would be like, if you have enough time, and it's like, no, you haven't done the math. You guys didn't give enough time. 14 billion years, it's not enough time. Do you know what are the odds of even 150 amino acids lining up perfectly to make a protein and have it?
What are the odds, dumbass? Go ahead and do the math for us. 150 amino acids lining up perfectly. What do you mean lining up perfectly? They polymerize. They spontaneously polymerize. You get 150 of them in a row. There you go. You got 150 of them in a row.
Oh, everything just happens. Everything happens. It just is. You're retarded. It just is.
Epic Skeptic. Epic Skeptic is in the chat. You just got owned, Dyer. We got owned by by somebody just saying it just is. Like, these things just happen. They just get together, and that's what it is. Oh.
What are the odds of that happening? What the fuck are you talking about? You have no clue what you're talking about.
So, Jim Bob made a passing comment that everything lining up to create life seems very implausible. I would argue that that's actually impossible, that it's anything to do with chance. But he didn't even make an argument. This is twice now. All he said is we're retarded and nuh-uh.
That's not even have it do something. You still need to inject information to tell it what to do. We don't even know we know where that comes from.
What do you mean tell it what to do? You have a molecule and it does something, but
nothing has purpose. Oh, my arguments, they don't even have purpose. They just do. What's the problem, you stupid believers in God? Wait, Professor Dave is a comedian?
By virtue of its structure, proteins can be...
They just do by virtue of what they are to do the thing that they do.
Functional by virtue of their structure. So you make a fuck ton of them and some of them are functional. That's it.
Everything just is. End of argument. You're retarded. So if he doesn't give an argument within the next few minutes, I'm going to know that he doesn't have any actual argument or substantive replies. Right.
There's so many problems, and they're shutting down the people that are revealing these problems.
Right.
And
they're shutting them down. There's censorship, you guys. There are whistleblowers that are exposing the fake Darwinists, and they're being censored and canceled by the woke left, the trans communists. They're trying to take away our freedom of speech as...
Okay, so now he's like trying to make fun of MAGA, and like he's doing this cringe level, like, oh, these people that are conservative thinks that there's a conspiracy to censor. All right, I've had enough of this. This was like even worse than I thought it was going to be. John, what's up?